Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 241. Well, hey there. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. For those of you in a situation where we have not been acquainted, my name is Tess Wicks. I am the host of this here lovely podcast, founder of Wander Wealthy, and financial coach turned business coach for my fellow financial coaches, money coaches, and wealth coaches of the world. This show is really a creation of mine, and I created it to help my fellow coaches, to help you learn how to market and sell your coaching business, or your coaching offerings, I should say, within your business, to learn about the value of coaching, to be able to trust yourself and believe in the value that you have to offer, and to learn a little bit about coaching itself, and give my personal tips and tricks from my experience of being a financial coach for 4 years and counting, and just anything and everything that I can do to help you thrive in your business, or thrive in the idea to have the motivation and the momentum to start that business, if that's something that you're looking to now. So today I'm sharing something that I'm really excited about. I'm going to share 9 powerful questions to ask during a financial coaching session. And these are questions that I think maybe you've been searching for, because if you're worried about holding space, that's what we call it in the coaching world, is like holding space, getting on a call to hold space for your client to feel safe in, talking through their financial successes and also pitfalls, then you probably want to know, how can you ask a question so that it feels safe, so that it feels non-judgmental? Because I think we can say, like, I'm not going to judge you until we're blue in the face, but then, we also want our questions to feel that way as well, so that they really do feel safe to your clients. I mean, when I'm saying they really do feel safe to open up to you and share what happened, what's going on in their head, because they made that decision, or they didn't make a decision, or, whatever it is. So I'm going to walk you through these 9 questions. This should be a quick, fun little episode. I have been trying to make shorter episodes lately, and they've just been longer. So we're gonna try to keep this brief. But before I get into this episode that we have, I just want to share some different ways that we can work together this fall. So I closed enrollment for the Wealthy Coach Blueprint one-on-one coaching, but there are other ways that you can get the Wealthy Coach goodness. And we first and foremost have the pricing formula, which is a really, great introductory offer that I have for you. And it's really going to walk you through pricing and kind of the mindset around pricing, but also just how to value coaching and really seeing the value in the coaching, but learn a financial formula to price your coaching offerings, learn some of my best tips around pricing your coaching offerings, and also some of the mistakes that I see people make, as well as some additional trainings on mindset when it comes to pricing and the value of money coaching, and how to price for inclusion to make your prices, fair when it comes to you needing to get paid, because this is a business that you're running and it's not free to run it, but also to make them fair for the person who's paying you, and how to make those available to your audience and to your potential clients. From there, you can also join, when you do join the pricing formula, then you have an opportunity to get into my simple sales masterclass. And if you've ever been confused or just run down by the idea of selling, that is a masterclass for you. It's packed full of value, 90 minutes of just pure, all my selling secrets, to be honest. And you're going to get it in that 90-minute masterclass. Of course, we also have the client attraction content matrix, which if if content has you stumped, then this is the place to go. So Here's how you can get access to all of these. Wanderwealthy.com/pricing will get you the pricing formula, which will also, once you purchase, give you an opportunity to get into the masterclass. And through the pricing formula, you can also get a bundled, super discounted rate in the client attraction content matrix. So if you're looking to save the most money and get the most bang for your buck, that is the way to go. If you're like, you know what, Tess, I don't need the bundle, I just want to go straight to the good content stuff, then you can also purchase the client attraction content matrix on its own by heading to wanderwealthy.com/content. And to top it all off, this episode is really going to be super powerful if you combine it with the coaching session guide, where I walk you through different ways that I structure my money coaching sessions, whether it's the first time we're chatting, an intermediate time, or the last session of the package that I've sold to a client. And if you can pair the coaching session guide with some of these powerful questions that you can ask in a coaching session, like, wow, that is a value bomb if I ever saw one. So you can download the coaching session guide for free by heading to wanderwealthy.com/guide, and then pair it with the questions you're going to learn in this episode. Make sure you take out your notebook and write down these questions because you're going to want to make notes. Maybe you can download the guide, print it out, and then make notes on the guide. Whoa, that would be awesome. But it's gonna blow you away. And I think your coaching is gonna change for forever. I had someone reach out to me recently telling me that the small change that she made after listening to one of my podcast episodes, and I'll talk more about this in this week's episode, but the small change that she made has completely changed her coaching sessions with her clients. And that individual is also now a client within the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. So shout out to her if you're listening, you know who you are. But I'm super excited about that. And it really just goes to show, I mean, at least for me, that what I'm sharing is truly making a difference. And I hope you're all listening and able to take even a small thing and implement it within your coaching sessions or within your business, your marketing or sales strategy or whatever it is that you're working on, and you're able to see real change. So without further ado, that's a long intro, but I wanted to tell you about all the ways to work with me. Even if you missed the enrollment period of the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, you can check out some of those awesome, much more accessible options in the moment. And then also never hesitate to reach out. If you jump on the waitlist for the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, you can also always reach out to me. And sometimes I have like a free spot available. So you just never know. If you reach out, we might be working together a lot sooner than you think. So, all right, let's talk about these 9 powerful questions to ask during your coaching session. Now, not long ago, I did 5 key questions to ask during a sales call, which let me get you the podcast episode number. I'm always referring to previous podcasts, and then sometimes I don't have the numbers, and I'm like, I got to look them up. Episode 235 is 5 key questions to ask during a money coaching sales call. Also a very good one, but you'll see that these questions are different because now we're in a coaching session and we're going to be talking to our clients and asking questions to help get them, an aha moment or help them kind of initiate their own change. Because it's one thing if a client comes to you and is like, oh, I actually didn't follow my budget. And then you're like, why not? You should, right? If we ask why not, first of all, that opens up the why-based questions. I should preface it with this. I've mentioned in previous episodes, but you always want to ask questions that are based in what or how, not necessarily based in why. Because when you ask a why-based question, a question that starts with a why, you open up for reasoning. You open up for, and I don't want to say excuses, but because I do think, we should always honor and respect what people have to say. But you do open up the door for a big story versus really getting to the actual facts and taking the emotions out of it. And when you're coaching, you want to do your best to, of course, there's a part of coaching where you're exploring those emotions, but you also want to do your best to really get the facts and really uncover the obstacles that we're dealing with without the heavy emotion so that, again, you can keep that feeling, whether it's a feeling that your client is having about how you're asking a question. And oftentimes when we ask why, it can come off as a little bit of accusatory, right? So as a coach, you're like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to come off that way. How do I ask a question that allows me to really allow my client to have their own breakthrough, right? Have their own kind of internal mindset shift that allows them to, identify the things themselves instead of me asking why, them telling me a story, and then me telling them what I've identified, right? What I have kind of assumed of the situation, and then be like, and now this is what you should do, right? As the coach, we actually want our clients to come to their own answers because, you learn about this when you first have ever like babysat or have ever had kids, is that, if they can come up with the idea, they're far more likely to do it than if you come up with the idea and tell them to do it, right? So it's the same with coaching. I mean, I don't want to say that it's just as easy as talking to a toddler, because it certainly isn't. And we're talking about money and there's so much more complexity to it. But when it comes to asking these questions and helping your clients make a change, you really want it to be self-initiated in them. And so asking the what and how based questions is really going to get you there. Okay. So with that, here are the questions, and they're kind of in order of how the coaching session would ultimately kind of pan out. So I think we should be good. You can kind of see how we would move through the session with these questions. The first question I love to ask, this is such a good one to start the call off on a high note, is what are we celebrating this week? And sometimes your clients might be like, nothing, or, oh, everything sucked, nothing, I didn't do anything, but there's always something to celebrate. So even if you have to stretch beyond the finances, dive into something that we're celebrating. Or find a way to link it back to the money and be like, sometimes they'll be like, well, I overspent, so it was a terrible week, or it was a terrible month. And then you can say, but was there some of that spending that did bring you joy? Was there any part of that spending? Let's talk about that spending. What would you say is the breakdown of that spending, and where within that spending did you really find joy? And you can find the celebration within that. The second question is, what didn't get done this week? So when I ask, what are we celebrating? Sometimes I also kind of follow it up with okay, what did we get done? And oftentimes we're celebrating what we got done. So typically if we're coming from a call previously, then, we're setting some accountability. What's the homework that the client is going to do, so that on the next call, we can determine, did you do the homework, right? And are we celebrating that? So find anything to celebrate, but then you can also talk about what got done and how can we celebrate that as well. And then the second question is, what didn't get done? Is there anything that didn't get done in the past week or month or however long it's been since you kind of gave them homework or gave them tasks, or where they committed to tasks to do? And then you can identify what didn't get done. If nothing didn't get done, if they did everything that they needed to do, they're feeling really good, then that's perfectly fine. You can keep moving through the questions. But if something specifically didn't get done, then I would move to question 3, which is, all right, okay, what got in the way? What got in the way of getting that done? So this is really key. Instead of asking oh, why didn't you do it, right? That opens the door for so much storytelling and so much, I don't want to say excuses, reasons. I'll stick with that, because I really don't think we should be coaching from a place of you're just making excuses. That just I think that triggers me, because I think it makes it sounds like my father. And when I'm a coach, I am not your father. I'm your coach. I am here to do this with you. And, I'm not going to do it for you, but I can be along for the ride, and we can talk about what got in the way and problem solve. So when you ask what got in the way, you're really able to dig into, okay, what specifically came up? What got in the way? And now what can we do to overcome that? And you can take that issue and work through it right then and there. And then there are also questions that you'll see later on where we'll be kind of identifying action steps for them to implement to make sure. But what got in the way? And then once that kind of comes out, then you can identify and take that further with more what-based questions. Okay, what can we do to avoid that getting in the way next time? Like, what are the specific things that we could really commit to and really kind of outline that, make note of that. And then I like to make note of that and be like, okay, we're going to come back to that when we set our accountability or our homework or our task list for next week or for, the next month. But I'll make a note of that and make sure that I revisit that near the end of the call. But we'll usually take some time to talk through that. And I think that that's just such a good question to really dig into. The next one is where you get to tap into the feelings. So instead of asking the why-based question that really digs into feelings, creates the story, we're separating the facts from the feelings. So what got in the way? Let's look at that. Okay, and then question 4. And again, these aren't probably questions you're going to ask like, one right after the other. You might explore, but the next thing that you could ask is, how are you feeling about that? Or what are the feelings that you're experiencing about not doing X and Y getting in the way, right? Insert whatever in X and Y, but not budgeting and time being the thing, not having time being the thing that got in the way. How are you feeling about that? And explore those feelings with your client. I think they're gonna kind of open up and you can dig in. So this is where I want to share some of the deepening questions or commands that will really allow you to kind of take your coaching deeper with your client. So sometimes, especially if you're looking at what got in the way, or how are you feeling, and there might be some more in the next questions, but asking the deepening question, what else, right? Especially when they're giving one-word answers, or they're just kind of like sharing the thing and then stopping and not expanding, or they're sharing one thing, but there's probably some other things that are getting in the way. Then you can say, what else got in the way? Or you could honestly just say, what else? A good command is, tell me more about that, especially if they're not explaining the thing fully. So, tell me more about time, not having enough time being the thing that got in the way. Can you tell me more about that? Can you expand on that? Also, if they're sharing the feelings, tell me more about that feeling. And then when they come up with something that is, potentially like an excuse, or you just want to ask like the why-based question, as opposed to asking why, it might sound a little bit weird, but I want you to try asking for what purpose, right? So instead of, let's say that they were like, well, I blew my budget because I went to Sephora and bought like $200 worth of makeup. And then instead of being like, well, why did you do that? You can say, for what purpose, right? And that just allows them to kind of go, okay, what was the purpose of my behavior? Instead of why did you do that behavior, what was the purpose of it? Where did that really come from? Okay, so those are just the deepening questions, but I wanted to share those now so that, as we keep going through these other 9 questions, you can see how you might be able to apply them and use them. And especially with the 4th question, how are you feeling about that? And specifically, how are you feeling about the thing that got in the way? You can use some of those deepening questions or commands to explore that even further. From there, right, they're probably not feeling good about that situation. So we can start to reverse that. And the 5th question is, how do you want it to feel? Because, a lot of times they might be like, well, I feel bad, but it feels restrictive for me to budget, or whatever the feeling is, or whatever the topic is that you're talking about. And so then you say, how do you want it to feel? And allow them to explore those feelings, even if, and I think a really good thing to do in this moment is also to say, drop the idea that it has to feel one way. Like, if it could feel any way, how would you want it to feel? And allow them to kind of tap into what that could look like. The next question, and then you can explore that and find ways to make that feeling available to them, even if they don't feel like it's available to them. I'm saying the word feel a lot, but you can really dig in there. And the next question you can ask is, how would you like your money management to look like? How would you like it to look? And have them kind of explain what it would look like, honestly. But how they would kind of come up with the solution to the problem. And that could also help you, I think, a lot in your coaching, especially if you're recognizing that, this budget isn't working very well and they need something new. Well, what if you co-created a solution together? So asking them, how would you like your money management to look? How would you like, and whatever you can insert or exchange money management for anything, but like, how would you like your debt reduction plan to look? How would you like your daily spending to look? And, just explore that with them. I'm starting to realize that I think these are the best questions when you are working with a client and they're like not getting results, or they're feeling discouraged, or, they're having a hard time getting everything done. Like they're not the perfect client, which is okay, because I think that's like almost every client. But these are the best questions to ask to really explore and dig into that. But I think you can also ask, even if things are going well, you just might want to tweak some of the things. The next question, number 7, what small step or what small thing can we begin to implement today to begin making progress towards that new ideal? And so this is where you're asking them, like, what can you do? What's something small that you can do, that you can start today, that's going to help you make progress towards what you want your money management to look like, how you want it to feel, and also, overcoming the obstacle of what got in the way. So sometimes it's not even that you're actually working on a money problem. You might be working on like a time management problem, because not having time is getting in the way of them budgeting. So it's really identifying, like, what's one small thing we can begin to implement today to begin making progress towards that new ideal. That's where, again, you get to co-create with your client to find that solution. Question number 8, the last 2 questions are some of my favorite, because it's kind of like cheating. It's not cheating, but it's a great coaching question when you feel maybe at a loss for how to best support your clients, or, you just you want them to claim how they want to be coached so that you can coach them the best way that they would be susceptible to that. So number 8 is, how can I best hold you accountable at taking that action? So now that they've determined the small step, okay, how can I make sure that you stay accountable to that? So how can I best hold you accountable at taking that action? And then, they'd let you know, like, okay, text me every morning to make sure that I started the day looking at the budget and, planning the day ahead, or whatever. Or maybe it's just like, text me on Sunday night to make sure that I am planning out my week in advance. Or it could be literally anything. They are most likely going to come up with it, but they might, need your help. But you can work together to determine what that looks like. And then question number 9, how can I best support you between now and our next session? And this is a great one, because you could get a variety of answers. Some people want to talk to you every single day. Others are like, just send me a message, next week on Tuesday to make sure that I've done this thing. Or just keep showing up on your Instagram stories because that inspires me. Or, they'll tell you kind of anything, but whatever it is, that's something that now okay, if I do that, they're going to feel really good about our coaching. They're going to feel really supported. They're also going to feel like I'm holding them accountable, because I truly am, but I'm doing it in the way that helps them feel supported. So those are the 9 powerful questions. Now, you might not ask all of them in every single session, but I think that they are really good at kind of digging in and also approaching, especially if there's a problem coming up with one of your clients, approaching the problem solving in the coaching session with a truly non-judgmental way of coaching and problem solving that specific problem, and helping the client kind of take on the ownership of solving that problem, because it truly is up to them to make sure that they are taking the action to overcome it. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you took mad notes. Go ahead and take a picture of it and share it on Instagram and tag me at Tess_Wicks. And if you have more questions about this, or just any other question about building a money coaching business, doing the actual coaching, or doing the selling or the marketing, questions about content, questions about freebies, questions about anything, send me a DM on Instagram. That is where I take your requests, and I love to take them and turn them into real podcast episodes. So head to Instagram and add me at Tess_Wicks and just send me a message. It's not weird. I promise. I get messages all the time and I love hearing from you guys. So go ahead and hit me up there. And don't forget, if you want to get access to any of the ways that we can work together and I can support you throughout these next few months or remaining months, I should say, of 2021, head to wanderwealthy.com. That's where you can check out the pricing formula, the client attraction content matrix. You can also check out the show notes of this week's episode by heading to wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 241, and there will be links there for you as well. And that's a wrap. So until I chat with you next time, I hope you wander wealthy.